Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarvagurubhyo Namaha. Continuing on with our discussion of Hari Bhakti Vilas, we have now come to the 10th Vilas. So we're going to start the 10th Vilas today. The 9th Vilas, and before, from about the 5th Vilas through the 8th Vilas, we were doing the worship of the deity, worship of Lord Krishna with the 18-syllable Gopal mantra. And the 9th Vilas was just sort of finishing off, taking prasadam, offering prasadam to other people, and the glories of Charanamrita and prasadam, different things. So now the 10th Vilas, we have a completely new topic. So let's have a look at the text. So as usual, we have Mangalachana Sloka, which is the praising Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the first verse. Shri Krishna Charanam Boja, Madhupebhyo Namo Namaha, Katanchit Ashrayad Yesham, Swapi Tad Ganda Bhag Bhavet. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of the devotees, who are just like bumblebees at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. By the association of devotees, even a dog-like person can become attracted to the sweet aroma of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Nice. So we expect that there'll be a lot to say about the association of devotees here and how to associate with devotees, how to associate with the devotees of the Lord in this chapter. So text 2. After honoring the Mahaprasad, which we just talked about in the previous 9th chapter, after honoring the Mahaprasad, Mahaprasad can be foodstuffs, it can be the incense, it can be the lamps, it can be the flowers, it can be the scents, it can be the chandan, the sandalwood paste. Anything which is offered to the Lord becomes the mercy or the Mahaprasad of the Lord. After honoring the Mahaprasad and other remnants of the deity, one should decorate his body with tilak and symbols of the Lord's weapons, as well as a flower garland, right? So that flower garland obviously is also prasad. We call it nirmalya prasad, flowers and flower garlands, or tulsi garlands even, which are offered to the Lord. After they're offered to the Lord, they're called nirmalyam. He should then humbly enter an assembly of Krishna's devotees and engage in listening to the nectarian topics of the Lord. So here it's said in the second verse, Krishna Kata. Krishna Kata, Sudha means pure, the pure topics of the Lord's activities. So here Vaishnava Chinna is the different marks on the body of the Vaishnava. The Chinna means it means markings, or it can mean sign, like that. So okay, let's continue on. Text 3. So now in some Shmriti Shastra, it says one should spend the 6th and 7th parts of the day, which is considered to consist of 8 parts, discussing literature such as Mahabharata, the histories and the Puranas. So it says here, Itihasa Purana Bhyam, Shasta Saptama Ko Nayet, right? So in the 6th and 7th parts of the day. So if we divide the day into 8 parts, I'm not sure here if it means dividing the daytime hours, or it means dividing the whole day, the whole 24 hours into 8 parts. Many times we talk about a prahara. There's a length of time called a prahara. That's 3 hours. So there might be some other name for it. Gaudiya Vaishnavas may have sometimes another name for it. But anyway, there's a length of time called 3 hours, which is in Vedic time terminology. So 3 times 8 is 24. So normally when we talk about a certain part of the day, we're talking about, if we divide it into 8 parts, we're talking about 3 parts, 3 parts, 3 parts. Now, what does that mean in terms of the 6th and 7th parts? Okay, so what is the first part? Now, the Vedic day, usually according to Vedic astronomy or astrology, is supposed to start at sunrise. So let's say a Vedic day goes from sunrise to sunrise. From sunrise today to sunrise tomorrow, that'll be 24 hours. So unlike in modern terminology, we talk about the one day ending at midnight and the next day beginning at like 1 minute past midnight, or beginning at midnight, ending at 11:59 p.m. and starting at 12 a.m., right? That's why 12 a.m. is midnight, because there's ante-meridian and post-meridian. So there's before noon and after noon, right? So before 12 and after 12, noon. So before 12, midnight is before 12, noon. After 12 noon, it's also after 12 noon, but it's called ante-meridian and post-meridian. So that's Latin for before noon, before 12 and after, before the middle of the day is what we're talking about. Okay, so that's the understanding in the modern understanding that at 12 midnight, that's the beginning of the next civil day. The previous day is before that, is before midnight. Okay, good. All right, but that's not the Vedic way. The Vedic way is to start at sunrise. So anything before sunrise is considered, strictly speaking, is considered the previous day. Anything after sunrise is considered that day. So now if we say that there are sixth and seventh parts of the day, right? It means the sixth and seventh parts after sunrise. This is how I'm understanding it here. Now, there may be some other explanation given in the purport or whatever, but let's say that sunrise is at 6 a.m., right? So then the sixth part, 6 times 3 hours, is 18. So there'll be 18 hours after sunrise. So if we add 18 to 6, right, we get 24. 24. And if we subtract 12, we get 12. So that will be 6 a.m. plus 12 hours would be 6 p.m. plus another 6 hours would be 12 p.m. So that's not right. That can't be right. It can't be that the parts are 3 hours long, right? Okay, so let's say that if the day is only 12 hours, let's say that day and night are equal, which only occurs at the equinoxes, right? If day and night are equal, then we have 6. Then we would have we have 12 hours divided by 8, right? Would be an hour and a half, right? Each section. So if we start at 6 a.m., so 1.5 hours times 6 is 9. If we add that to 6, then we get 15, which would be 3 p.m. Yeah, about 3 p.m. And to 3 to 4:30. 3 to 4:30 p.m. would be this time. In that time, we should be discussing the itihasas. Now, here it's translating itihasas as Mahabharata and the histories. Actually, itihasa, there are 2 itihasas, or in other words, they're usually translated as epics. So one is Mahabharata, the other one is Ramayana. The story of Krishna and the Pandavas, the story of Rama and Sita. Okay, so these are called itihasas. So Puranas means that because there are 2 categories here, there's itihasas and Puranas. So there's a dual case ending here, abhyam. Right, so that means that there are 2 things, two types of scriptures which are discussed at this point of day. The itihasas, Mahabharata and Ramayana, and the Puranas. There are 18 Mahapuranas, and then there are also Upa Puranas or smaller Puranas. So there are big Puranas, the main Puranas are 18. The Vaishnavas will be discussing mainly the 6 Sattvic Puranas, the Puranas which are in the mode of goodness, which recommend mostly the worship of Lord Vishnu and Lord Krishna. And then there are some other Puranas which tend to talk about other deities like Shiva and Brahma and Shakti. right? But they also might have some things about Krishna and Vishnu, which we can also accept. But in general, it's the Sattvic Puranas. Sattvic Puranas means like the Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana, the Vishnu Purana, right? There are some other Puranas like that, but these are the main ones for Vaishnavas. Okay, so these are all discussed at that time of day in the company of other devotees, or simply studying them by yourself is also okay. And so, what do we say again? There are six activities of a Brahmin or of a Vaishnava. Also, we can say yajana, patana, dana, and patigriya. So he performs sacrifice. He teaches others or does sacrifice for others. He reads the scriptures, and in this case, the Itihasas and Puranas, right? And he teaches them to others. So either you're studying them yourselves either you're alone or in the company of other Vaishnavas, or you're teaching them to other people, right? So this should be done in the 6th and 7th parts of the day. Now, exactly what the 6th and 7th parts of the day is, we don't know. There are some different divisions of the day called naligas. So I'm reading from Panchagam and Horoscope, or the Indian Calendar and Indian Astrology by L.D. Swami Kanu Pillai, which was, I believe, written in the early 20th century, I think 1922 or 1911 or something like that, maybe a little later. And he mentions here on page 12, tithis in relationship to festivals, lunar days, and vice versa. So he says about this that a day on which a festival is celebrated as a tithi generally covers, or a lunar day, generally covers 2 days. It sometimes happens that for civil purposes, the tithi of a day is that which is current at sunrise. Yet, so the idea is that the Vedic civil day starts at sunrise. For religious purposes, the tithi or lunar day, right, because it's a lunar calendar usually, right? Although in Bengal, in Kerala, and in Tamil Nadu, they also have solar calendars, and they do take some. Even the other lunar calendars do have some aspects which are solar, right? Like Sankrantis, which is when the sun travels into different houses of the zodiac. The tithi may have to be celebrated on the previous day when it begins, right? For religious purposes. When a tithi is appointed for celebration of a feast or fast, to be kept at forenoon, midday, late afternoon, midnight, it is obvious that the feast or fast must be observed on the day when the tithi covers the prescribed part of the day, right? So what he's saying here is basically when there's a fast or a feast or a particular observance, right? Then if the lunar date of that observance expires just after sunrise, the whole day will be named after that. But is it right? Is it right to observe that festival on that day? We will see. We're going to get into this, and the reason I'm going into this detail is because very soon we're going to be talking about Ekadasi and different lunar dates, and things are going to get a little bit technical about how to observe, when to observe mixed Ekadasi or pure Ekadasi, or etc. So okay, so we should have a general understanding of these things. So the day for such purposes is divided first of all into 5 portions between sunrise and sunset. So he's talking about divisions of the day here. So since we started talking about divisions of the day, I thought we would just read this. It may not be the same set of divisions, but here's another sort of division. Okay, so now in Sanskrit, when we hear of prataha kala, just like we have prataha sandhyavandanam, we do prataha. Prataha means in the morning, right? So prataha, the actual prataha kala, or the time called prataha, is the early forenoon, 6 gatikas from sunrise. Now a gatika, I believe, is a naligai, otherwise known as a danda, for 48 minutes, right? So there are so there are there are 60 there are 60 out there are 60 there are 16 sorry maybe you have a danda is 24 minutes and then a muhurta is 48 minutes, so a gatika is maybe, I'm not sure if a gatika is a nalagai or a danda or a muhurta. Anyway, so 6 gatikas from sunrise. Okay, so anyway, Prataha Kala is the early forenoon. So it's from sunrise to 6 gatikas after sunrise. Then you have Sangava, which is the forenoon, which is from 6 to 12 gatikas from sunrise. Madhyanika, Madhyana or midday, which is when you do Madhyanika Sandhya, is 12 to 18 gatikas from sunrise. Aparna or afternoon is 18 to 24 gatikas from sunrise. Sayana, right, where we have Sayana Arti, right? Sayana is the late afternoon, 24 to 30 gatikas from sunrise. Now, the 4 gatikas before sunrise are called Arundaya or rise of dawn. The rise of dawn, 4 gatikas before. Now, I think, therefore, we have 4 gatikas means 2 muhurtas, right? Because from Brahma Muhurta to dawn is called Arundaya, or the rising of the sun. So here, a gatika is a half a muhurta. So half a muhurta is a danda, 24 minutes, right? Because the muhurta is 48 minutes, right? So, so when we see gatika, we can think danda. And this nalagai, I have to look that up, right? Anyway, the 6 gatikas after sunrise are called pradosha in the evening. I'm sorry, after sunset. After sunset, when the sun has set. Now, also, sunrise and sunset are a little different when calculated by modern people as calculated in the Vedic scriptures. In the Vedic scriptures, when the sun is half up and half down, right? When the sun is rising and the disk of the sun on the horizon, right, is half up and half down, half below the horizon, half above. That is considered the Vedic system. So same thing with sunset, when it's going down, when it's half down. That's the exact moment of sunrise and sunset. However, according to the modern idea is sunrise is when just as the disk of the sun just peaks above, just starts to come above the horizon, and when the full disk of the sun has finished going down over the horizon. That's sunset. Okay, so there's a little bit different because it takes some time, obviously, for the sun to go down. Right. So then 6 gatikas after sunset is called pradosha. Pradosha is a time Vaishnavas worship Lord Narasimha, Shaivites worship Shiva, especially on the day of Chaturdasi. It's a special pradosha on Chaturdasi, or the 14th day. Right, so now we have the 2 gatikas in the middle of the night are called nishta. Nishita. Nishita means midnight. So 2 gatikas or 1 muhurta in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night. In the middle of the night means what? Don't immediately think of 12 midnight. Think of between the sunset and the sunrise the next day. In the middle of that. Right. To the muhurta, which is in the middle of that. Right. So there are different muhurtas. There are obviously 30 muhurtas in a day and night. Right. Okay, because a muhurta is 48 minutes, 24 hours means 48 times 30. Okay, so then a festival marked as Purva Vida is celebrated on the first day of the Tithi, not the second. The festival celebrated on the second day of the Tithi, on which a Tithi is current, is said to be Paravida. So normally the Vaishnavas, you'll see the difference between Smartas and how they observe festivals and Vaishnavas is that the Smartas will usually observe the Purva Vida Tithi, and the Vaishnavas will observe the Paravida Tithi. They will observe the second Tithi. So For example, if we see Ekadasi falls on 2 days in the calendar, it falls on the first day, and the next day is also called Ekadasi. Both of them are called Ekadasi because the Tithi, or the lunar day, goes on, extends past sunrise on the second day. So it's there on the first day, and it's also there on the second day. Okay. So then the actual fasting or the celebration of Ekadasi is done by Vaishnavas on the second day and by Smartas on the first day. Okay. So that's just a little bit. So it says here, Titi Dvayam, the two titis meeting, one commencing and the other ending between 18 and 24 Gatikas after sunrise, when a similar meeting does not take place the next day. That is called Titi Dvayam. Okay. All right. So that was just a little bit out of that book. So now to get back to our point here, right? So after we, and we didn't need to get so technical, but I just wanted to do some things to prepare us for some of the technical terms that we come up with later on. So to get back to this, to make it very, very simple, we worship, we get up, in the different parts of the day, there are 5 parts of the Vaishnava day. So the first part is Abhigamana, right? Where we get up and we do our ablutions, we take our bath, we get dressed, we put tilak on, we get ready, we ready ourselves to do the worship of the Lord. The next thing is Upadana. We collect the materials and ingredients that we need for the worship of the Lord. The third part of the day is the Ija, the actual worship of the Lord. And then after Ija, we get Swadhyaya. This is the fourth part, right? So we have Abhigamana, Upadana, Ija, and the fourth part is called Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means study. Swa-adhyaya. Adhyaya means the study of the Vedas. Swa-adhyaya means self-study. So some people might say, well, okay, Swadhyaya means self-study. There's another part of the day. If you're a student, obviously you go to school in the morning and the teacher teaches you. This is like homework. This is not the study that goes on where the teacher teaches you. This is Swadhyaya. This is your own work, your own study. So similarly here, of course, Hari Bhakti Vilasa is mostly written for Grihastas. So the Grihastas, they've finished the Gurukula, they've left school, and they've studied under a teacher, and they might have done that at any time of the day. But this is the time of the day when the Grihastas have to study the books, to study the Shastras. Okay, either with themselves or with others, or teaching others even. Okay, so continuing on, right. It says here, the characteristics of the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Right, so because he has now said that we should study at this time of the day, and he says that we should study along with the association of other devotees. So because he said that we should study with the other devotees, now he wants to tell us, he wants to give us the qualifications of those other devotees so that we can pick and choose the right people to associate with when studying. Right? Okay. So the characteristics of the devotees of the Supreme Lord. So in the Linga Purana, the general symptoms are stated. A Vaishnava is one whose worshipable Lord is Vishnu. So really, really, really simple. This is a very important pramana, very important proof. A simple definition of who is a Vaishnava. So, for instance, if somebody says to me, is that person a Vaishnava? Is that person a Vaishnava? I can apply this very simple pramana here, this very simple proof. Vishnu Eva actually means only Vishnu, but let's say Vishnu, they worship Vishnu, right? So we can get it into the minute meaning of this some other time, but Vishnu Eva, he certainly only worships Vishnu, right? Is what it's basically saying here. Devata Vaishnava Smitaha. So the person who worships as God, Lord Vishnu, is known to be a Vaishnava. Vishnu Reva hi Yasyasha Devata Vaishnavaha Smitaha. That's the definition of a Vaishnava. Right. So in any form, any form of Vishnu, if the person worships that form, then he's a Vaishnava. So now that's the general definition. So here it was saying samanyataha. Samanyataha means general. The general. Lakshanani is the qualifications, the general characteristics, right? Bhagavad Bhaktanam, of the devotees, plural, of the Lord. Sri Bhagavan Bhagavad Bhaktanam Lakshanani. Samanyata, the general characteristics. So that's a general definition of Vaishnava. Now, Atra Visheshaha, here it says Visheshaha, here's some specific or some special characteristics of a Vaishnava. And it's said in this regard, we don't know where this sloka is coming from. Vrata Krama Guna Jnana Bhoga Janmadi Mat Swapi Saiveshvapi Chakrishnasya Bhaktaha Bhakta Santi Tata, observing fasts, performing religious rituals, displaying compassion, possessing knowledge of the distinction between the spirit and matter, enjoying life in the mode of goodness, birth in a noble family, and possessing spiritual knowledge are some of the general characteristics by which the devotees of Lord Krishna can be known. Nice. Now, continuing on, we have Tatra Vratishu Madhye, right? Means while observing specific vows, right? Bhagavad Bhakti Hetu, the cause of devotion to the Supreme Lord, right? Vrata Parata Bhagavad Bhakti Bhakta Lakshanam. Okay, so the characteristics of the devotees of the Supreme Lord regarding their observance of various vows while executing devotional service. Okay, so in the Skanda Purana, there's a conversation between Markandeya and Bhagirata, and it said, "O king, those who do not fast on Ekadasi when it overlaps Dasani are considered bona fide devotees of the Lord." Okay, so what does this mean? Dasami Shesha Samyukta. Dasami Shesha. Okay, so Dasami is the 10th day of the moon, the 10th lunar day. Either waning or waxing, the 10th lunar day, and Ekadasi, the 11th lunar day, comes after it. So as I said, here it's talking about Dasami Shesha. Dasami Shesha, when the Dasami is left over, when some of it is left over. Samyukta, and is connected with the day, right? Some of the Dasami is connected with the day, right? So most of the day is Ekadasi, but some Dasami is still there, right? So those persons who do not fast on that day, they're Vaishnavas. They are Vaishnavas, right? They're the bona fide Vaishnavas, right? So what did I say before? I said there's the Purva Vida and the Paravida. So there's the Smartas who follow the Ekadasi when it comes. As soon as the Ekadasi appears, they want to start doing that fast. The Vaishnavas, however, wait until the day that they fast is completely free from Dasami. There's no Dasami on that day. That there's only Ekadasi on that day. And maybe Dwadasi, okay? Like that. But there's no Ekadasi. There's no Dasami. There's no Dasami. There's Ekadasi, right? So that will be in the case where this is what in the Chaitanya Charamrita you could also read when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling Sanatana Goswami he wants a book written about, called Hari Bhakti Vilasa. He wants a book written about Vaishnava activities. He specifically says that you should tell people how to observe pure Ekadasi and how not to observe mixed Ekadasi. This is what he's talking about, mixed Ekadasi. When the Dasami is mixed with the Ekadasi, we don't observe fasting on that day. We wait till the next day. Even if the Ekadasi expires 1 minute or 1 second after sunrise the next day is the day when we perform the fast. right? The first day is not the day. Whereas smarters will think, no, there's more Ekadasi on this day. We should therefore fast on that one. No, the Vaishnavas will take the second day. This is called Paravida Ekadasi, or it's called like that. Okay, so it gets very technical, Actually, there may be a point where we get in the text here where I don't even understand, but this is a very easy one to understand. That Dasami mixed with Ekadasi shouldn't be fasted on by Vaishnavas. Smarters can do that. That's their rule. So then text 7. And we're assuming this comes from Skanda Purana, also from the same, it doesn't say anything. So know for certain that one who completely fasts on Ekadasi and who remains awake at night, even if it cause him great inconvenience, is an elevated devotee. Okay, so here it specifically says Jagaram Ratrao, in the night, right? Jagaram. He stays awake. He stays awake at night, right? So this is an explanation of the Ekadasi observance. Ekadasi is a vow to fast, but not just to fast. It's also to stay awake all night. Sada. This person is always known to be a Bhagavata, a great devotee of the Lord. Right. So text 8, also from the same place probably. He is to be considered a pure devotee who fasts on Ekadasi, stays awake that night, and then performs the necessary rituals on Dwadasi. Okay, so what do we understand? That Ekadasi fasting, first of all, we have to look for a pure Ekadasi to fast on. We have to also fast on that day. We have to also stay awake all night, right? And then finally, we have to break the fast with certain rituals the next day, which is on Dwadasi. So here it says here, Uposhya Dwadasim Sudham. Ratrao, again it says Ratrao Jagrananvitam, right? Jagrana means staying awake in the night, right? So that's again mentioned, right? Okay, text 9. Pure devotees are those who never fall down from the vows they had made to their spiritual master, right? Now, I don't see the word spiritual master there exactly. So it just means the pure devotees are those who never break their vows. The vow here that we're talking about is the vow of Ekadasi. When we're going to follow Ekadasi, we should do what's called a sankalpa. Sankalpa means taking a vow. So it's also an offense, though, to take a vow. When you take a vow, you're praying to God and you're making a promise to God that I'm going to do something without fail. And I'm going to do it in a specific way. We know this whenever we do any ritual, we do a sankalpa at the beginning. We say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and maybe also this, and I'm going to do it in this particular way and for this purpose or whatever it is, right? And then we do it without fail, right? If we fail, then we break it. Then we're breaking that sankalpa, we're breaking that vow. So here it's talking about not breaking the vow, not breaking the sankalpa that we do at the beginning of any ritual. So here, the specific thing is talking about the Ekadasi. So pure devotees never fall down from the vows that they had made to the spiritual master. They're making the vow actually to the Supreme Lord, right? Such as fasting on Ekadasi, and whose object of love is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. So even Lakshmi is mentioned here, right? Which is nice. Shripati Yeshu. Shripati Yeshu means the husband, Patir, of Shri. Means what? Means the Supreme Lord, Sriman Narayana or Krishna. Okay, so now that those are very nice statements there. So what do we learn from it? We learned that you shouldn't fast on a mixed Ekadasi, a date which has dasami left on it, some form of dasami on it, right? You should remain awake all night. You should fast. You should also remain awake all night, right? And then you should perform the proper rituals the next day to break the fast. And that is in the 9th text here. That is considered to be doing the fast correctly. And if you don't do that, you're basically breaking the fast, because that's what it says. That's what it says. There's a vrata, and the vrata consists of, first of all, making the determination of the proper time to do it. Don't do it on a mixed Ekadasi. Then doing it, actually fasting, staying awake, right? And breaking the fast, doing the proper parana or breakfast rituals the next day, right? And if you do all those things, which you've promised in the sankalpa, in the vow to the Supreme Lord, that is correct. That's the correct way to do it, right? So we know that from those four verses. Okay, so now we have the fruitive workers offering a fruit of their activities to the Supreme Lord is counted as the limb of devotion service. Okay, so we all have read Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna first of all talks about karma yoga. Karma yoga, what does karma yoga mean? Karma means work. So if we perform any work and we do that work, we usually do that work for somebody. We either do it for ourselves or our families or our nations or our cities or our, or mankind. We can, or we can do it for God. We can do something for God. Now, if you do any work, right, that is karma. But if you do karma yoga, what you're specifically doing, Krishna says, is you're giving up the fruit of that work that you do to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord. So that is a type of devotion. That is also considered to be bhakti, right? Karma yoga. It's a type of, it's karma and jnana. Karma yoga and jnana yoga, they are assisting bhakti, like two wings of a bird, right? Of course, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there's also a statement, jnana kamadi ravita manukulyena krishnena sinham bhakti uttamam. The greatest bhakti, or the greatest devotion, is devoid of being mixed with karma and jnana. But here what he's talking about is he's talking about the karma yoga, or the activities that a Vaishnava does, or any person does. If he offers the results of those activities to God, or to the Lord, to Sri Krishna, then that is considered to be bhakti. That's a type of bhakti, or devotional service. Okay, so here it says, one should be considered a Vaishnava, because we're actually defining who is a Vaishnava, right? So first of all, we had a general description of a Vaishnava, anybody who worships Vishnu. Secondly, we had some more explanation, somebody who performs vrats and he does different things, like all these different things. And then thirdly, it gave us this set of four slokas about observing Ekadasi and how to stay awake and observe it on the right day. That person's a Vaishnava. So here we have more about who's a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a person who gives up the result of his activities to God. So one should be considered a Vaishnava whose very life is dedicated to executing the mission of his spiritual master. Okay, so yeah, who engages in sex only for begetting nice children. Maitunam is mentioned there. Sanatanam cha, right, for eternal purposes, right? And who cooks with the intention of feeding qualified brahmanas. Pachanam means cooking. Vipra means learned brahmanas, learned people. It means Vaishnavas here. Okay, that person is those men, Naraha, Vaishnava. They are known to be Vaishnavas. Okay, good. Who this Dharmatam Jivata, he lives for spreading Dharma or establishing Dharma. His goal is to establish Dharma. Yeah. Okay, so 11. Here we have one who affectionately feeds a guest who has arrived at his house, exhausted after traveling, is undoubtedly a Vaishnava. So here's another definition of Vaishnava. Yeah. Okay, text 12. Those who properly exhibit the Vaishnava etiquette, Sadachara. Here the word Sadachara. Sadachara means eternal activities or eternal conduct or good conduct, right? Shishtaha means the tradition. traditions, right? So those who properly exhibit Vaishnava etiquette, who follow the rules and regulations prescribed in the scriptures, who are merciful to all living entities, who are pure-hearted, and who are not attached to the fruits of their activities are considered pure devotees. I mean, they're considered Bhagavatas, devotees of the Lord, Vaishnavas. Okay, so now there's a conversation between Narada and Ambarish in the Padma Purana, which says a Vaishnava is one whose very life is dedicated to executing the orders of the Lord, and who spends his wealth for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness and advancing in devotional service throughout the entire day and night. So here the words ahoratrani are significant. So through the day and through the night also. Ahoratrani. So in the Linga Purana it's stated, one should be considered a Vaishnava who becomes pleasing upon seeing those who becomes pleased upon seeing those who are devoted to Lord Vishnu and who performs his activities based on the rulings of the Shruti and the Smriti. So here it says Shrauta, Smarta, Pravartaka, who's following the Shrauta and Smarta rules, right? When he sees a person who sees another person who is devoted to Krishna, right? And he also performs his activities according to Shruti and Smriti. Nice. So here we have text 15. One automatically develops good qualities such as mercifulness as a result of devotional service. In Skanda Purana it says, those who feel unhappiness while seeing others' unhappiness, right? So this is what we call in English empathy. If I see somebody else suffering, right? And let's face it, everybody in this material world is suffering. So when I see anybody else in this material world, I see that they're suffering. I feel for them. I feel that they're suffering, and I feel their suffering. I feel their pain, right? At least, a little bit. And I can empathize with them. And those and whose attachment for the Supreme Lord continually increases are to be considered as Vaishnavas, right? So one who is compassionate and sees the suffering of others, and who also his attachment for the Lord continues to increase. He's a Vaishnava, according to Skanda Purana. Now we have a conversation between Kapila and Devahuti from the Bhagavatam, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we could look this up, and it doesn't exactly say, Tritiya Skanda. It says in the third canto. Tritiya Skande, Sri Kapila Devahuti Samvadi. So in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, it says, a saintly person is characterized as follows. He's tolerant, merciful, friendly to everyone, without enemies, and peaceful. He strictly follows the principles of religion, and indeed, all his characteristics are sublime. Sublime, very simple and pure. So, text 17. In the Panchama Skanda, in the fifth canto of the Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabhdev has spoken the following verse. Okay. My dear sons, it has been ascertained by learned authorities that service to great souls is the gateway to liberation, whereas association with those who are overly fond of women is the gateway to hell. Yeah. Okay. So great souls are those who treat everyone equally, who are peaceful, who are devoid of anger, and who are well-wishers of all living entities, and who never act in an abominable manner. Text 18 and 20. From the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord says to Uddhava, this is 11:11, 29 to 31. The Supreme Lord said, O Uddhava, one who is compassionate, forgiving, truthful, free from envy, equal to everyone, a benefactor to all, not agitated by lust, self-controlled, sober, well-behaved, without any material possessions, unattached to worldly activities, austere in his eating, peaceful, steady, thoughtful, not bewildered, unchanging, patient, victorious over 6 enemies such as hunger, thirst, etc., without desire for honor, always ready to give respect to others, expert in instructing others, sincere, merciful, and knowledgeable, is worthy of being called a Vaishnava. Nice. So there's a big, long list of good qualities of the Vaishnava. Text 21, the conversation between Yamaraj and the Yamadutas, his messengers in the Vishnu Purana. It said, one must be considered a Vaishnava who is steadfast in devotional service to the Lord, or of the Lord, who treats friends and enemies equally, who is never arrogant, who does not hanker after others' property, and whose determination is fixed. The wisdom of a learned person should be dovetailed in devotional service, should be used in devotional service. Right, so the Nava-yogendras, or the 9 yogendras, starting with Havi is the first of the 9 yogendras, spoke the following verse in the Bhagavatam, from Bhagavatam 11-45. A first-class Vaishnava sees Lord Hari as the super soul residing within all living entities, and he sees how all living beings are situated within the Lord. Right, so not only does he see the Lord within all living beings, but he sees all living beings also within the Lord. This is a relationship called Sharira Shariri, spoken of very much by Ramanuja. So then we have the text 23 in the, again, Avi, the first of the Nava-yogendras, is saying in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.252, a first-class Vaishnava does not make a distinction, thinking that something is his, whereas something else belongs to another. He realizes everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. He considers all living entities in the light of his equal vision and remains peaceful. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.11.33, the Lord states, my devotees may or may not understand my transcendental nature, but if they worship me with unalloyed devotion, I consider them to be first-class devotees. So Bhaktatama means the greatest devotees. So again, we have Havi in the Nava-yogendras in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verses 46 and 47 says, a Madhyama, here we're going to talk about the different classes of devotees. So we have here the Bhaktatama, which means the Uttama Bhakta, the Uttama Adhikari, let's say. The greatest devotee is being described, right? And then now we're going to talk about the Madhyama, the middle devotee, and the initial stage of devotion, right? So, or we could say the lowest form of devotion. A Madhyama Adhikari devotee, Vaishnava, is one who loves the Supreme Lord, makes friendship with his devotees, displays compassion towards the ignorant, and who avoids those who are averse to the Lord. A Kanistha Adhikari, Vaishnava, is one who worships the deity of Lord Hari in the temple, but does not know how to behave towards other devotees or people in general. Okay, so here, again, the topmost devotee is that person who worships the Lord with unalloyed devotion. You may not even understand the Lord's transcendental nature, but he has unalloyed and fixed devotion, singular devotion to the Lord. Okay, so continuing on, for a materialistic person, detachment from material enjoyment can be the cause of devotional service. So here again, Havi is saying, of the Nava-yogendras is saying in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 48th verse of the Bhagavatam, in spite of accumulating wealth with the help of the senses, if one realizes this material world to be the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, and thus feels neither happiness nor distress due to contact with the object of the senses, he is considered to be an Uttamadhikari, or highest devotee, Vaishnava. And here it says Bhagavata Uttama. Right? So up before we had the Bhaktatama, and here we have the Bhagavat Uttama. Right, the Uttama devotee, topmost devotee. If a person is not proud, despite of high birth and fine education, that may be the cause of devotional service. Again, Havi speaking in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 51. Anyone who is not proud of his material body, which is made of the 5 elements, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? right? His birth. So he's not who is not proud of his material body made of the 5 elements. His birth, his activities, or his position in the Varnashram system, right, is certainly dear to Lord Hari. Somebody who's not proud of his position in the Varnashrama system. The Varnashrama system we see here very clearly, the Bhagavatam says the Varnashram system is jati bihi, is according to birth. And it is a material system based on birth. Right? So somebody who's not proud of his position by birth in society. Right. Text 28. The qualities of not expecting any respect for oneself and steady detachment from the objects of sense enjoyment are especially helpful when they support devotional service to the Lord. For this reason, these 2 qualities are considered superior to the ones previously mentioned. Right? Not expecting any respect for himself and steady detachment from the objects of sense enjoyment. Text 30. Among the followers of Shiva, so people who are devoted to Lord Shiva, those who do not discriminate between Krishna and Shiva are to be considered Vaishnavas. Okay, so it's Shaiveshu. Shaiveshu means of the Shaivites. Shri Shiva Krishna Bedaka. Shri Shiva Krishna Bedaka. Abeda. Abeda means oneness. The oneness between. Beda means difference. So Abedaka means who see no difference between Shiva and Krishna. They are considered to be Vaishnavas. So in the Brihad Naradiya Purana, which is a great Purana, Satya Purana, it says, Shive cha parameshane, Vishnu cha paramatmani, Samabudhaya. Samabudhaya means thinking equal, the intelligence or the mind, the mental attitude of oneness, of equality, of equality. Pravartante. Tevai Bhagavad Uttama. Bhagavadottama means Bhagavata Uttama. He is the greatest. He's considered to be Uttama person. Right. Parama Ishani. Parama Ishana means it says Shiva is the Parama, the supreme controller. Vishnu is the Paramatma, is the super soul. Right? One who thinks like this, right? He's a Udamadikar. Those who consider the super soul, Lord Vishnu, and the master of material nature, Shiva, to be non-different, are to be considered excellent Vaishnavas. Not just excellent, but here it says Bhagavata Uttama, the highest Vaishnavas. Okay. It's an interesting, a little bit controversial sloka here. Some Vaishnavas would not agree with this, but apparently here, the author of Hari Bhakti Vilas has quoted this. Right. So he's saying that person who's built. Now, in another way, we can understand. Okay, let's understand this. Even from the point of view of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is considered to be the greatest Vaishnava. He's considered also to be a great Vaishnava. He's a great Mahajan, one of the 12 Mahajans. So Lord Shiva is a great Vaishnava, right? Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, right? So in a sense, because the Lord Shiva is such a great Vaishnava, he's a great Vaishnava, he also has to be accepted as great, because what did we say? Aradhananam sarvisham Vishnu Aradhanam param Tasmat Paratanam Devi Tadiyanam Sa'achanam. The Tadiyanam, that which is related to Vishnu, is the worship of that which is related to Vishnu is even greater than the worship of Vishnu himself. So the worship of Krishna is great because he's the Supreme Lord. But Lord Shiva is the devotee of Krishna, and therefore the worship of Shiva, if we worship Shiva as a devotee of the Lord, as a Mahajana, then we understand him to be the greatest devotee of the Lord. If we worship him in that mentality, then he's also, that worship is also great, even greater than the worship of Krishna, because it's the worship of the devotee of Krishna. Right. So in that sense. So let's continue on. Text 31. Although there are innumerable characteristics ascribed to devotees, I will herein describe the principal symptoms of those who are properly engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And we see also just a little bit more about this Shiva, Vishnu, or Shiva and Krishna thing. People, there are Gaudiya Vaishnavas who worship Shiva. They worship Gopeshwara Mahadev to get entrance into the rasa dance. So it's a form of Shiva who stands at the gate of the rasa dance and allows people to come in or not. Right. So if you go to Vamsivad in Vrindavan, you go to the Rasa Mandali, Rasa Stali, right, the place where the rasa dance took part. There is a deity there of Shiva in the form of a gopi called Gopeshwara. Similarly, if you go to Vamsivat, there is also a temple called, in Vrindavan, there's a temple called Gopeshwara Mahadev. So there's a deity of Shiva or Shiva Lingam, which is worshipped as the greatest devotee of Krishna. Similarly, even in the beginning, in the beginning of Loy Bazaar, there's another Shiva Lingam called Bankadi Mahadev. Bankadi Mahadev was also worshipped by Sanatana Goswami. So the Goswamis also used to worship these deities of Shiva. Because Shiva is a great Mahajan. Okay, so now we have, although there are innumerable characteristics of devotees have wonderful qualities, just like the Lord has Ananta Kalyana Gunas, he has unlimited auspicious qualities. Similarly, devotees, Vaishnavas also have similarly unlimited auspicious qualities. So now, Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami are going to explain to us the principal symptoms of those who are properly engaged in devotional service to the Lord, meaning Vaishnavas. So Sri Bhagavata Shastra Parata, an attachment for the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the first thing. So a Vaishnava will be attached. He'll be attached to the Bhagavatam. He'll be attached to the stories, right, to the Krishna Katha, the stories about the Lord and his different pastimes and his different avatars, which are explained in the Bhagavatam. So in the Skanda Purana, there's a statement that says, those who worship the Srimad Bhagavatam as their very life and soul are to be addressed as Bhagavatas, or exalted devotees. So the word Bhagavata means exalted devotees. It actually just means the devotee of Bhagavan, right? So, but also that the book is called Bhagavata. This Purana is called Bhagavata Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore it is especially meant for those Bhagavatas who worship the Supreme Lord. And those who are very attached to that book, Bhagavata Purana, are called Bhagavatas. So the Supreme Lord has glorified those who consider Srimad Bhagavatam to be more dear than his own life as Mahabhagavatas. So those who consider the Srimad Bhagavatam dearer to them than their own life, that means the dearest thing to them, they are called Mahabhagavatas. So this, sometimes we see people are not called Bhaktas, but they're called Bhagavatas. They're called Mahabhagavatas, but they're great devotees. This means great devotees, like that. So Krishna also says, Krishna Swado Bhagavates Dharma Jnana Divir Saha, right, that in this age of Purana called Janoditaha, it says that this Purana, the Bhagavad Purana, has arisen like the sun. When the sun rises, then the darkness is dispelled. So in Kali Yuga, when the Bhagavatam has arisen in Kali Yuga to dispel the darkness of ignorance of people, right? In the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, Janmadya Savitan Vayadi Tirtasthiti Savishana Swarat Tenne Brahma Hridda Yadi Kavaye Muyanti Yat Surayaha Tejavari Medam Yatavi Vini Mayo Yatkishi Sargomisha Dhamna Svena Sadda Nirastakor Kam Satyam Param Dhimahi. I meditate upon that the supreme which was understood from the beginning of creation by Lord Brahma. So not just in Kali Yuga, but from the beginning of creation, this knowledge was understood by Brahma within his heart, Tenne Brahma Hrida, right, in the heart of the first created living being, Brahma. So Brahma is the first Bhagavata. He's the first one to be a devotee of the Supreme Lord. He's the first living being, so naturally he's the first devotee of the Lord. And so it's explained from the beginning of the Bhagavatam to the end of the Bhagavatam, the whole Bhagavatam, just like these other books, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Satvika Puranas, they're all completely full with the names, forms, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So those persons who are attached, especially to the Bhagavatam, they're considered to be great devotees, Mahabhagavatas. So this is the first general characteristic of devotees who are properly situated in devotional service. They're attached to the Bhagavatam. They're attached to the names, fame, and the stories and the different descriptions of the Lord's leelas and birth. They're attached to that, especially coming from the Bhagavatam. So now it says, always be ready to show respect to other Vaishnavas. Vaishnava Nishta. Vaishnava Samana Nishta. Nishta, be strongly attached to that. In the Linga Purana it says, one who offers his obeisances to the devotees of Lord Vishnu with devotion and a smiling face, just as one offers his obeisances to Lord Vasudeva, is to be considered a Vaishnava. Right. So above we saw that the Kanistadikari, right? It was saying about the Kanistadikari, the lowest form of Vaishnava. He worships the Lord in the house and in the temple. He can worship the Lord, but he doesn't really know all the full Vaishnava etiquette, how to relate to the other Vaishnavas. But here it's said, right, that here it's saying that a Vaishnava should be a person also. It's very important that a Vaishnava should not only pay his obeisances, offer his respects to Lord Krishna, but also to the other persons who are devotees of Vaishnavas, right? Again, we can quote that verse, Aradhanam Sarvisham Vishnu Maradhanam Param Tasmat Parataram Devi Kariyanam Sahachanam. What is greater than the worship of Lord Krishna is that which is related to Lord Krishna, especially not just his prasadam, but not just other things that are related, but the devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord are related to Lord because they worship the Lord. So such a devotee is capable of purifying the three worlds, a devotee who not only worships the Lord and bows down to the Lord, but also offers his obeisances to the devotees of the Lord. Right. Such a devotee is capable of purifying the three worlds, one who, in spite of being chastised by a devotee of the Lord, offers him obeisances and converses with him politely, is considered to be a Vaishnava. So even if a Vaishnava curses you out, even if a Vaishnava chastises you, even if a Vaishnava argues with you like that, if you can be polite and friendly when you're conversing with that Vaishnava, that is a sign that you're also a Vaishnava. That is a sign of being a Vaishnava also. So text 36, one must be considered to be a Vaishnava, to be a devotee of the Supreme Lord, who always supplies food, grains, cloth, and other necessities of life according to his capacity to other devotees. So there are also these different relationships that devotees have with each other, Vaishnavas have with each other, of giving and receiving the prasadam of the Lord, of giving and receiving the teachings of the Lord in the scriptures, right? So these are things that we do amongst Vaishnavas, right? These are ways that we can reciprocate with other Vaishnavas. So in the Garuda Purana, it's stated, a person who has completely fixed his mind in devotional service to Lord Vishnu and has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas is considered a pure devotee. So here specifically says in the last line, Mahabhagavato, he saha, right? He means certainly. He's certainly a pure devotee, right? So a person who completely fixed his mind on devotional service to Krishna and has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, right? Of the Vaishnavas. These are important characteristics of Vaishnavas. Now, another one, he's fixed in service to Tulsi. So Bhagavatam's his life and soul. He's devoted to the Vaishnavas, not just to the Lord, right? And now it's saying he's fixed in service to Tulsi, because Tulsi is very dear to the Lord. So therefore, the Vaishnavas, they have to cultivate Tulsi. In the conversation between the Supreme Lord and Markandeya, which is found in the Brihadaranyaka Purana, it said, those who offer respects to Tulsi, as soon as they see her, and who decorate their ears with ornaments. Their ears with ornaments. Does it say that? Yeah, it says karna, ears. Ankita means earrings, right? With ornaments of tulsi wood are certainly to be considered Vaishnavas. Now, some Madhva Vaishnavas, what they do is they take tulsi manjaris that have been offered to the Lord and they put them inside the ears like this, and they stick out from the ears. They hold them inside the ears, or you can put them on top of the ears also. But there's a way of holding them inside the ears, right? But here it's talking about wooden ornaments, right? Which generally means earrings, wooden earrings. So we do see people in India, especially in North India, wearing tulsi wood earrings. Are certainly to be considered Vaishnavas. Those who are pleased to smell the sweet aroma of tulsi and who decorate the foreheads with tilak made from tulsi pulp. So taking tulsi wood and making tulsi pulp and putting tilak on are also considered to be Vaishnavas. Yes? So here it's very clear. Tulsi gandam. Tulsi gandam means making the tulsi paste from the wood of tulsi. So basically here, it's not really talking about cultivating tulsi. Of course, one can cultivate tulsi also, but it's saying we have to offer obeisances to her, and we have to wear on our body some tulsi ornaments, right? Normally people wear neck beads, or they wear beads on the neck or chest of tulsi. If you can get the tulsi gown, which has been offered to the Lord, which is prasadam, and you can put it on your head, or you can wear it on your chest. We can smell the aroma of the tulsi leaves. We can eat the tulsi leaves that are given to us when we go for darshan of the Lord by the pujari, and decorate our forehead even with, or even other parts of the body, right, that we decorate tilak with. We're using tulsi pulp. These are all considered to be Vaishnava activities. So now he should have attachment for hearing about the Supreme Lord. So in the conversation between Supreme Lord and Markandeya in the Brihad Naradiya Purana, it says, those who've developed a special attachment for me about hearing about me, and those who are similarly attached to glorifying me, hearing and glorifying, what is it? Shravanam, Kirtana, right? As well as those who are respectful to such devotees are also considered to be Vaishnavas, or here it said specifically, Bhagavat Uttama, they're the greatest Vaishnavas. Right? They hear about the Lord, they glorify the Lord by singing about the Lord, or by teaching about his pastimes, birth and activities, and we should offer respect to such Vaishnavas. So now, in the conversation between the Supreme Lord and Arjuna, which is found in Skanda Purana, it says, he is considered to be a first, all of these slokas are interesting because they all have the word Bhagavad Uttama, Bhagavata Uttama, the Uttama Bhagavata, the greatest devotee, the highest devotee. He is considered to be first-class Vaishnava who continuously speaks about me, who hears about me, and who takes pleasure in discussions about me. This is Lord Krishna saying here to Arjuna. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, 325-23, it's stated, saintly persons do not suffer from the threefold miseries of material existence because their minds are fully absorbed in hearing and chanting my glories. Now, attachment to chanting the holy name of the Lord, Nama Parata. In the Brihad Naradiya Purana, it's also mentioned, those whose minds are fixed upon me, who live in association of my devotees, and who are fond of hearing and chanting about my transcendental names, forms, qualities, and pastimes, are to be considered pure devotees. Again, the word Bhagavad Uttama is mentioned here, and we see manasascha madbhakta jana lolupaha. Mannama means my name, right? Mannama, Shravana, hearing, right? Shaktas. Tevai Bhagavad Uttama. Nice. Text 44. Those who take great pleasure in hearing the holy names of the Lord, exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy, such as the standing of the hair on end, are considered to be exalted Vaishnavas. Here we have again Bhagavatam mentioned here. Yeah, Romanchita Saha Sarirascha Harshita. So Roma Harshana. This Aroma Kupa is a hair follicle. So Harshita means is like being in ecstasy, being in happiness, you know, and Romanchita means talking about the hair standing on end. So elsewhere in the same literature, which is the Brihadaranyaka Purana, I believe, yep, it said, those who are very happy to see others progress in spiritual life and who take pleasure in chanting the holy names of Lord Hari are to be considered exalted devotees. Again, we get this Bhagavad word here. Hari Nama Para Yecha. So chanting. Okay, so now smarana. So we had hearing and chanting about the Lord. Now we're remembering. Now we're going to be talking about remembering the Lord. Attachment to remembering the Lord. Right? So when one is unaffected by attachment and hatred, raga dvesha, right? While remaining fixed in his devotional activities, he becomes fixed in remembering the Lord. So when we're performing our devotional activities, sometimes our mind might wander. But those people whose mind can be fixed on remembering the Lord, right? They who freed their mind from this anger and attachment and all this hatred and all these different things, negative qualities, negative emotions, right? They can remember the Lord purely. So in the Vishnu Purana, there's a conversation between Yamaraj and the Yamadutas as messengers, and it says, it should be understood that that one whose mind has become purified as a result of thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, and who is thus never deviated from his engagement in devotional service, is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, Vishnu Bhaktam. Right. And so what does it say here? It says, na chalati. Not, he doesn't go. He's not, it means his mind doesn't flicker, it doesn't waver. Okay. So text 47, those whose heart remains unpolluted by the contamination of Kali, right, this present age, right, because he keeps the Lord within his heart, is known to be very dear to Lord Hari. Text 48. The exalted personality who feels no attraction, even if he sees gold lying in a solitary place, because his mind is fully absorbed in thought of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord without any deviation, is to be known as a devotee of the Lord, Vishnu Bhaktam. Again, we have these words, Ativa Bhaktam, right? Great devotee, Vishnu Bhaktam. All of these slokas from Vishnu Purana end in Vishnu Bhaktam or Ativa. Ativa means greatest devotee. A very high devotee, Vishnu Bhaktam. Now we have another one. What is the position of envious people, and what is the position of Lord Vishnu, who is as pure as crystal? Spatika. Spatika means crystal. In other words, contamination, such as envy, cannot be found in the mind of a person who is absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Just as heat cannot remain with the full appearance of the moon, of the full moon. So the full moon has a cooling effect. So the idea in the scriptures, it says that the sun has a heating effect, the moon has a cooling effect. So there can be no heat when the moon is shining. Okay. Text 50. Lord Vasudeva constantly resides within the heart of a devotee who is non-envious, peaceful, pure in his dealings with others, the benefactor of all living entities, dear to all, free from pride and false ego, and speaks in a pleasing manner. Text 51. Just as the shala tree supplies an excellent extract from its soft bark, Lord Vishnu, who is the oldest of all, makes a devotee most attractive and glorious while residing within his heart. Remembering the Supreme Lord can easily be done by one who is renounced. So again, Havi, one of the first of the Navya Gendras in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam says, in 11 to 49, 53, and 54, due to constant remembrance of Lord Hari, when one remains unbewildered by the activities of this material world, such as birth, death, hunger, fear, the thirst for knowledge, the gratification of the senses, he must certainly be considered an exalted devotee. Does it say Vaishnava Rayaha, Vaishnava Pradhanaha? Yeah, great devotee. First class Vaishnava is one who does not deviate even from a moment from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, which are sought after by the demigods such as Indra. Even if he becomes a proprietor of all the wealth within the three worlds, indeed, such a devotee has accepted the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord as the essence of his existence. As heat vanishes as soon as the full moon appears in the sky, the threefold miseries of material existence are mitigated by the cooling rays emanating from the toenails of the Supreme Lord Trikrama. The inclination for worshipping the Lord. So it seems like here we're also going through the different forms of Navada Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam is coming here, Puja Parata. So in the Skanda Purana it said, those who are also engaged in the purified activities of devotional service of Lord Hari, the Lord of Sacrifice, should be accepted as pure devotees. Those persons who perform the yajna to Lord Vishnu or the puja of Lord Vishnu, Archana, right? They're considered to be also Bhagavatas, great devotees. In the Linga Purana it's stated, O best of men, one who resides in a holy place connected with the pastimes of the Lord and who celebrates the festivals commemorating the Lord's appearance and other such holy days, and who regularly worships the deity with love and devotion is considered to be a pure devotee. Indeed, anyone who engages in the devotional service of Lord Narayana with his body, mind, and speech must be accepted as an exalted devotee. So now Vaishnava Dharma, Nishtatadi, remaining fixed in the principles of Vaishnavism. In the Padma Purana Uttarakhanda, it stated that Brahmana who has undergone the 5 kinds of purificatory processes. So here in the first line it says Tapadi Pancha Samskari. Tapadi, tapa means tapa. The word tapa means austerity, but it also means hot, heat, because there's certain types of austerity where we undergo heat, right? The example is given that somebody sits in the middle of 4 fires and the 5th fire is the sun on top. This is called Pancha Agni Kriya. Somebody sits, that's considered austerity. So austerity is normally associated with heat, like that. So here Tapadi refers to the first of the Pancha Samskaras, Tapa Pundra Tatonama Mantra Yagas to Panchamaha. These are related in Pancharatra, right? That these are the marks of the 5 samskaras of the 5 purificatory processes that all Vaishnavas go through. So the Vaishnavas, they're branded with the symbols of Vishnu on the shoulders, right? Then they have Tapa Pundra, they wear the Urdhva Pundra tilak of the Lord, Vaishnava tilak, markings on 12 places of the body, especially the forehead. Right? Tapa Pundra Tatonama, they have a name which reminds you that they're a servant, dasa of the Lord, Krishna, the Krishna dasa, right? Tapa Pundra Tatonama. Mantra, they have a Vaishnava mantra. In this case, we're talking about devotees of Krishna who have the 18-syllable Gopal mantra. Tapa Pundra Tatonama, mantra, Yagasya Panchaga. They worship Lord Vishnu, they worship Lord Krishna. And so a Brahmana, it doesn't actually say Brahmana here, but it says Mahabhagavata, he's a Mahabhagavata, Vidvipro, okay, a learned person, right, who has undergone 5 kinds of purificatory processes, the Pancha Samskara, beginning with the branding, right, Tapadi Pancha Samskari, right, who is expert in the 9 kinds of devotional service. Navedya means the 9 karma. So he performs these 9 forms of Navada Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Achanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedam, which is told by Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, right? It's also mentioned in the Ramayana too. There's another verse in the Ramayana which also gives 9 types of devotional service. And who knows the true purport of 5 kinds of knowledge. 5 kinds of knowledge are what? The 5 kinds of knowledge are the 5 kinds of knowledge which destroy the 5 types of ignorance. 5 types of ignorance. Ignorance is sometimes called darkness. Darkness is sometimes called night. The word night in Sanskrit is ratra. So one meaning of the word pancharatra is 5 nights. So it is a doctrine which was spoken by the Lord on 5 nights, but it can also mean that it is 5 types of knowledge which destroy the 5 types of ignorance, right? Which are there in this material world. So 5 kinds of knowledge. These 5 kinds of knowledge are called pancharatra. So here exactly it's talking about tapadi panchasamskari, a person who's had the panchasamskaras, right? He performs Navada Bhakti, the 9 types of devotional service. He knows the Pancharatra. He studied the Pancharatra with the 5 types of knowledge, right? These knowledge are divided up into, I'm not exactly sure what it means by 5 types of knowledge in Pancharatra, because we divide 4 topics in Pancharatra. They are Jnana, Yoga, Kriya, and Charya. These are the 4 sections of all the Pancharatra Samhitas, but there are, we could say there are 5 types of knowledge. We have to look it up and see more exactly what those 5 types are, but they are the knowledge which destroys our ignorance in this material world. He is considered to be a Mahabhagavata, or a pure devotee, the Uttama Adhikari, like that person. So sometimes when we read a book, for instance, there's some books on how to install the deity, how to do the prana pratishtha of a deity, how to install the deity. So the first thing will be you have to get somebody to install the deity for you. If you want a deity installed, you have to engage what's called a deshika, or a Mahabhagavata, or a some sort of acharya, right, to be the person who installs the deity. And so the question comes: what is the Dr. Iyengar in Mysore, when he was doing the whole series of lectures about installing the deity, he said, okay, so what is the qualification of that person? That person has to be a Vaishnava. So what are some of the characteristics? A verse which is very similar to this is what he was quoting. Tapadi panchasamskari, navayedya karmakarakaha, arta panchika tadvipro, mahabhagavato hisa. Oh, okay, so arta panchika here also. Arta Panchika, I understand. So Panchika, Arta Panchika, the 5 types of knowledge can also be Pancharatra, but it can also mean the Arta Panchika. So especially in Sri Vaishnava Ramanuja Sampradaya, which is very much linked to the knowledge of Pancharatra, right? We have 5 topics which are called the Arta Panchika. So here it's specifically said Arta Panchika. So the first thing is, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we talk about 3 topics: Tattva, Hita, and Purushartha, which we call Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha is a type of knowledge of this material world and your situation. Abhideya is the sadhana which one takes up, Navada Bhakti or Bhakti Yoga, right? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Prayojana is the goal which we're trying to reach. So this is also there in other forms of Vaishnava. It's called Tattva, Hita, and Purushartha. Tattva means the knowledge of your situation, reality, right? Hita means the means, or the upaya, the means to attain liberation, right? And Purushartha means the goal, or the prayojana, right? So in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it's called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. In other forms of Vaishnavism, it's called Tattva, Hita, Purushartha. And that those three aspects, Tattva, Hita, and Purushartha, are divided into 5. They're also divided into 5 because not only are there things to do, there are things to avoid, there are obstacles to overcome. So these are added to the 3 things, and to make up 5 things. So there's also a book by Piralokacharya called Arta Panchika, where you can study these 5 things. And anybody who's looking at this on YouTube, you can go to another list of videos on my YouTube channel, and you can see the Artha Panchika. There's a series of explanations and lectures on the Artha Panchika. So if you want to know more about Artha Panchika, go to that playlist. Okay, so that's what it is. Tapadi Panchasamskari, Navada Bhakti, and Artha Panchika. The person who has performed the Panchasamskaras, performs Navada Bhakti, and who knows the Artha Panchika, that person is a Mahabhagavata, great devotee. It's a very, very important pramana here from Padma Purana Uttarakanda. Very, very nice one. So do we have any questions about the first part of the 10th Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa, which talks about Vaishnavas and the different qualities of Vaishnavas and different characteristics of Vaishnavas? Because we're going to study the scriptures, and now we're going to study it with the other Vaishnavas, right? Either teaching them or with them, and therefore we need to know their different characteristics. So the characteristics are being explained in general and in specific.